Every fighter know this moment will come. We just never know when. I've spent my whole life chasing something. Not belts, not money, not headlines, but that feeling, the one you get when the world doubts you, but you keep showing up and you keep proving everyone wrong.
Unbelievable performance.
This sport gave me everything. I fought for my family. I fought for my city. I fought for the kid I used to be, the one who had nothing but a dream and a pair of gloves. And I did it all my way.
It cannot be overstated how sensational Terrence Crawford is.
I gave this sport every breath I had, every scar, every triumph.
Terrence Bud Crawford is the pound-for-pound king.
Every ounce of my heart.
The fighting pride of Omaha, Nebraska, USA, and no Ring Magazine, an undisputed super middleweight champion of the world.
And I've made peace with what's next. And now, it's time. Thank you.
Yo, yo, yo. What's good? What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back. Welcoming you to Turning the Page in Boxing History, special edition. Bud Crawford retires on top. This is a Stormy B-Man Live, number 53 in the series of Stormy B-Man Lives. Listen, special show for the likes of the pound-for-pound king, Terrence Bud Crawford. You see, I kind of hit y'all with something of a different flavor this evening. I know you weren't expecting that, but that's good because you shouldn't always know what's happening. You should always have a little bit of surprise. And that's what it's about this evening, because we're talking about something that surprised the boxing world when Bud Crawford decided to hang him up, and walk away as the best of his generation. Didn't he tell you a couple of years back he was going to prove that he was the fighter of his generation? And my goodness gracious, did he not do just that? So we were swamped by the news and the outcry of sentiment and everything when it was announced that he retired. I know officially we got some word of it like yesterday, a little over 24 hours ago or whatever. But it's obvious that this young man had been planning his exit. And it goes to show that little sound bit that you heard me playing of him from his Instagram post and everything. It was well thought out and well put together, well articulated. No profanity this time. And it was a great way to put it all with an emphasis of a punctuation to a magnificent career. You see, I'm not new to Terrence Bud Crawford, not by any means. But I have spoken with my comrades, Scrapbook Boxing, and the late Honorable Curtis Anderson, aka Kurt Sugar. years ago when we came together to form the trio that you would come to know as the Three Wise Men of Boxing, we decided that we would discuss fighters past and present and how we could kind of draw the ire of what we once knew that really drove the line of boxing strongly into each subsequent era, and how it came into the present 2000s, and which fighters could be burden bearers or carriers of that light coming through. And this young man happened to be one that we discussed years ago. I can remember telling one of my colleagues on my job, goes back about 8 years now, that I told him, because he likes to watch boxing, and when he found out that, you know, I was doing YouTube content and everything, he's like, "Oh, you cover boxing?" I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "Well, give me some good fighters to look out after." I said, "Well, have you heard of this young man, Terrence Crawford?" He said, yeah, I heard of him. I seen him a couple of times on HBO. I said, "Yeah, he's one to watch." And recently, we still work together. In September, when Crawford had his fight against Canelo, we revisited a conversation. And I say, "Do you remember when I told you years ago, almost a decade ago, to keep your eye on this young man?" He said, "Yeah, man, you were right." I only wish that my brother, the Honorable Curtis Anderson, could be here to see what he spoke about in this young man. Because though he may have moved funny, he may have had a quirky personality and all of that, in between those ropes was something that was a throwback. Kurt said to me, "You can drop Crawford into any previous era and he would fare well, because he has what those men had. And not everyone that's fighting presently can be put or placed into a former era and compete on the level." And see, that means something when you say compete on the level, because you might be pretty darn good today, but whatever your drawbacks, shortcomings, areas that may need to be shored up, could hinder you from being able to be back in previous eras. One thing that Kurt pointed out about Crawford was he didn't have enough of those that would keep him short of that opportunity. Now, of course, that was just an opinion, but it was a well-respected one coming from a man of such knowledge and experience. And especially when you would include Scrapbook Boxing in that conversation, because Scrapbook also shared similar sentiment. So I stand here before you all this evening representing those brothers, because I am still a part of the Three Wise Men of Boxing. And our brother Scrapbook is out there as well. He's dealing with some issues right now presently, but he'll be tuned in and be aware of everything that's being said. And he may even show up in the chat just to let you know that he's around. So this is an opportunity for me to again just revisit what's respected when it comes down to mentioning Bud Crawford. Now, it came as a surprise to everyone when he announced his retirement, but I wasn't surprised. it kind of caught me in a place of joy, because as I looked at what he has accomplished, I'm like, you know what? That's the way to do it, baby. You know, being a Chicago native, I watched the running of the Bulls in the 90s and seeing one of the greatest basketball players of all time in Michael Jordan, from the time that he was drafted in 1984 to the time that he hit that shot in Utah to win their 6th title. If he had walked away that day for good, what an amazing feat that would have been. But the lure and the love of the game was just too much. And he hung around a little bit too long. But we still have the Bulls. Terrence Crawford was very Jordan-like, right down to that competitiveness that he exhibited in the ring, also outside of the ring, where colleagues, friends, foes would find that his competitive nature knew no bounds. And it's interesting because it is just those very qualities that make someone like he or another professional athlete participating in another sport, especially sports where individualism can shine. It sets them apart from their. You can't coach talent is a phrase that has been known for many years. And it's very true. You can lead them. You can give them keys. You can teach them how to do certain things and the purpose and dutifulness of why. But it's up to that student to take what they're armed with and go out with their own talents and show the world what they're working with. Yeah. And did he do that? More than some others. Amazing. So, much respect to Crawford and what he has accomplished. And some of you are in here this evening to listen to what's being said. Some of you may even want to contribute, and maybe I can open the doors up for that to take place. And some are just ready to have expression of sour grapes, because that's the way that the world works. But we're not on any funny business, because I can go back to March 30th, Saturday, 2013. That was the first time that I saw Terrence Crawford. An HBO broadcast from Las Vegas, Nevada. He was taking on Breedis Prescott. I think there was a last moment replacement deal going on or something like that. 10-rounder. Crawford came in and he won a unanimous decision against Prescott. The main event was Mike Alvarado against Brandon Rios. A lot of people was like, who's that little black dude? And it was so interesting because when I watched him box, I was like, he reminds me of somebody. Then I got a chance to see him compete a couple of more times. Then there was the Ricky Burns fight over in Glasgow, where he won the title. But as I looked at him, I said, he reminds me of somebody. And I'm looking at him, and you know, he was an orthodox boxer, but he could switch to southpaw. And I'm watching him box, and I'm like, is it Tommy Hearns? Because he's got a punch, he's got a crack on him at 135. You know, this little skinny kid, kind of thin and reedily built, decent hand speed, but he was mean. Then it dawned on me when he fought Gamboa in June of 2014. Now, Yuriorkis Gamboa was a fighter that had fought on HBO a couple of times, and, you know, he was highly touted. But in this particular fight against Crawford, they were expecting him to be able to exercise that punching power that he was noted for. He entered that fight undefeated. The 5th, 8th, and 9th rounds saw Gamboa hit the canvas. The 9th, he went down twice. Crawford didn't go down at all. He did get rocked because Gamboa could crack. That's when it occurred to me, it wasn't one fighter. He reminded me of 3 rolled into one. And I had this conversation with Kurt. And Kurt was like, that's interesting, Stormy. But it was Scrapbook that said, you know what, Stormy? You put that together pretty doggone good. The 3 fighters that he reminded me of rolled into one were from a couple of eras prior. That was Tommy Hearns, Ray Leonard, and Marvin Hagler. Now, it is very rare that I would say something like that, taking multiple fighters and their attributes that were significant and put them into one entity and say, oh, there you have it. But the irony is, that's what separated Bud from his contemporaries during his career. He brought something that each of those men who were well known for what they did individually in their careers, and he kind of combined it. I'm not saying he did that on purpose, because even he might deny that he has those elements, but they are there. And if you are a true follower and proponent of the sport of boxing, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Hand speed and killer instinct of Ray Leonard. Boxing ability and punching power like Tommy Hearns. Because Bud, if he would crack you with a good, clean shot, guys would be rocked and shaken up and ready to go. And that's when that Ray Leonard like killer instinct would kick in, and he's a damned good finisher. That's what he would do. Get him out of there. And for anyone that so-called began to test him and what he brought to the ring, he could switch it up like Marvin Hagler and go southpaw and throw a wrench into your entire game plan because you didn't plan for that. Amazing stuff. And so we have Crawford, who retires with an amazing record of 42 wins, no losses, no draws, and 31 KOs. A 73.81% KO rate. Amazing, this young man. Amazing. And though he be at an advanced age in the sport of boxing of 38, this is a perfect time for he to bow out. You know why? Because fighters begin to have what's called slippage at the age of 35. Exceptional fighters are able to push the envelope beyond that because that's what separates them. They're special. So his victory over Canelo Alvarez, who was younger, by the way. Canelo is like 33, 34. Bud is 38. It's more outstanding that you see that, his accomplishment. Nothing to be trifled with. So as the door and the twilight sets upon an illustrious career, there are not enough people who have taken it upon themselves to acknowledge this man, because you've had naysayers the entire time. And then you had the others who had favored fighters whom he ended up facing. So there were never enough of fan sentiment and support for him. And dare I mention the intercultural racism that we experience within the community because of skin pigmentation. You see, that's a heavy thing, intercultural racism. There are many who won't even acknowledge that that exists, but they're the main participants in it. You know, they're the ones that always say that black so-and-so or that yellow so-and-so. She thinks she cute because she light skinned. Who he think he is with that wavy hair, that mixed blood? Spike Lee did an amazing film on that, School Days. Some of you weren't even born when the film was made, but I'd recommend it to anyone. There were song and dance numbers in that film that just really drove home the point of what we deal with within the community. And I could imagine that as a small child, Bud Crawford was called a black something more times than you have fingers to count on. That alone will put a fire in your belly to fight. When your own people can be disrespectful. So just imagine being a fighter and you're out there in that ring and you got a short haircut or you got braids or dreads. And the only thing they can think of when they describe you is to put that adjective out there. And if your own are doing it, you know what the others are doing and saying. It's enough to make you combative to the end. I had a difficult time finding an image that I wanted to use for my backdrop this evening. So I came across a couple. The one that you see on the screen presently is actually an amalgamation of a couple of images. But this one sitting before you with Bud and his championship title belts in front of him with a portrait of himself behind with that snarl on his face as a fighter. You might as well say he's snarling about everything of what I just mentioned. See, when you have that burning in the furnace, there are levels and depths that you can go to that the average person may not even dream of. And as a fighter, where you are trained, honed to be in discipline with your emotions and to channel the energies and forces of where you exert yourself. Now, do you see where the killer instinct comes from? Do you understand how the punching power would be on exhibition? Where the speed that I spoke of, because you want to strike fast to shut their damn mouths. It's not a difficult thing to come by, people. Not a difficult thing at all. So to come in and acknowledge what this is all about, let me tell you something. There's another image I have here under the one that you see here with the belts. And I love this one even more. You see this? This is my favorite shot of Bud. The ring, belt at his foot, he's sitting on the throne, and a couple of images of him hanging to the left and right above. One when he had his locks in his hair, and the other when his hair was cut short. A man of all seasons, so to speak. And the subtle touch, people, of the American flag hanging behind him. You see that? Do you see that? A king sitting on the throne, pound for pound. You see, this is not hard to put together, people. It's not. But it's all about what you haven't been indoctrinated into, where you, if you don't understand how to see beauty in your own self, then you are missing the fucking lesson. God doesn't make mistakes. And there's no such thing as coincidence. This man has endured the path that he has gone because it has been meant for he to be placed in a certain area and status that is not easily attainable or accessible. Remember the 3 fighters that I said rolled into one that he reminded me of being? The irony that they were the best of their era, even though their careers overlapped and they fought one another, they were exemplified by their accomplishments, the fact that they did face one another, and it has been written in history as something of a marked accomplishment. But this guy, representing those 3, how many times undisputed? I'll wait. Somebody please write in the chat. How many times undisputed this man be in the 4-belt era? 4 belts. Now, do you see the irony about what I said about 3 fighters from a couple of generations ago? So he's 3 overall, 3 times the best in 3 different divisions in a 4-belt era. Look at God. Look at God. I told you he makes no mistakes. And there's no coincidences here. None whatsoever. See, You don't have to like the guy. You don't have to love the guy. Or you can love the guy and like the guy. But most important is you respect the merit of what he has brought. You see, y'all are giving respect to the wrong ones too much, to the degree that they can't even get out of their own way. No coincidences. Not by accident. This is the same one that you all were saying. He doesn't talk enough. He needs to talk more. He needs to speak up for himself. When he began to do that, you said, he talked too much. I don't like what he said. Who he think he is? But he was always the guy that would rather show you than tell you, huh? Always, even today. Yeah. So I was watching this young man way before he got to that point where people start really noticing. And though his contemporaries, Thurman, Porter, Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Adrian Broner, Manny Pacquiao, I'm looking and I'm saying, those guys are all pretty good. But there's a quality that this young man has that people can't see. They're not reading it. And I would talk to Kurt and I talk to Scrap and they say, yeah, man, Stormy, he just has that special thing that most people don't see it until it's, you know, you're far, down the road. They don't see it when it's happening. They see the aftermath. And that's what it was with him. When Jeff Horn got the decision over Manny Pacquiao, all of the PBC fighters who had titles, they were like, we want to unify. We want to fight Horn. We want to fight Horn. And of course, because Bob Arum and the WBO have that relationship, he got the opportunity, being a WBO ranked rated fighter, and being a top ranked fighter. And he took Horn apart all of a sudden they stopped mentioning the WBO. When Pacquiao had it, they wanted to fight Pacquiao. When Horn defeated Pacquiao, they wanted to fight Horn. When Bud got the belt, crickets. Al Heyman, whom they all shouted out at every fight, every event, after every win, after every contest. When Bud was trying to fight Errol for unification for Undisputed, he said, I'm not going to let anybody touch this fight. Floyd Mayweather, with his PBC relations and Al Heyman ties, this fight doesn't happen until I tell y'all it's going to happen. Such foolery, man. Do you know when these guys were all at that particular stage? I think Bud is the eldest between them all. But at the time, he was like 32 or something like that. So you had guys who were 30, 31. Basically in their primes. And it didn't happen. Why? But he kept plugging away. And those other guys kept falling away. Mikey went away. Adrian went away. Manny went away. Thurman went away. Danny went away. And Errol, unfortunately, had a tremendous, dangerous, life-threatening situation happen to him. And he made a remarkable recovery. And many people felt that he would never be the same. But they had a chance to get that done before that happened, and they didn't. But I never wavered on what I thought would be the outcome. And even in that victory, people were saying, what if? But you know something? There was one more opportunity. Undisputed 154-pound junior middleweight champion Jermell Charlo in a great opportunity rarely seen in the history of the sport, where undisputed junior middleweight, undisputed welterweight had an opportunity to face one another. Sitting ringside during the Spence Crawford match, at one point handling affairs with Spence, Bud goes over to the corner and points out to Jermell in the audience and says, "You're next." Mel was like, and he went up to 168 pounds and sold his title, reputation, and everything else that he could bring to Canelo Alvarez. A man who would not face him when he was at 154, which really exemplified how fierce Mel and his brother Maul were in those early stages of being lions. So damn legacy, right? Damn going into the history books as two warriors competing for something of merit that will be respected, win, lose, or draw. Al, the advisor, took that off the table. So once again, Crawford is on the outside looking in. He went up to 154 and was looking to get it on with the main champion at 154, which was Sebastian Fundora. All of a sudden, Errol Spence, who didn't go for the rematch with Bud for whatever reason, they propped him up in front of Fundora and blocked Bud once again. Fundora is going to face Spence. They didn't have a date or anything. It was just that, you know, Spence got up there and they say, wait, Spence, you know, you got to wait in line. This is not, you know, these other fighters, they've been, Spence say, I don't do lines. Yeah. Famous quote. Fundora never fought Spence. So Bud took on the then undefeated Israel Madrimov. And Madrimov was an undefeated fighter, I think 12-0, something like that, when he and Bud fought. But at the same time, he was a fighter on the come. And he was another one of those European fighters, had a tremendous amateur background. Crawford spoke of his background saying, hey, when he made the trip over there, all he heard was people talking about Madrimov and how good he was and this and that and what they were expecting from him in the pros. He took on Madrimov for his WBA title and defeated him. Some people didn't like it because the knockout streak ended. Bud had been on a string of like 9 knockouts straight or whatever. But Madrimov fought to not get knocked out. He never took risks. He never put himself in a position that I'm going to go after Bud and try to get him out because he was aware that Bud might get him. Bud did enough to take his title. So then Bill Haney tells him, Canelo. And that's when you saw history in September of this year. I remember when he was going into the Canelo fight, I tried to tell anyone who would listen, and even the most professionals, Manny Robles, all those guys, they were out there talking. If you think that Crawford can beat Canelo, you're stupid. And all of that stuff. These guys talked. But I said Canelo in his 60 plus fights had never fought a fighter like this man. Never. And when I say like this man, I'm talking about the boxing ability, the skills, the athleticism, the competitive nature, the temperament, and will to win, all rolled into one. He's never fought anyone like that. And he found out. You know that meme I play from time to time, F around and find out? Canelo found out. You see, it's more than just punching, guys. It's more than just, going blow for blow. It's more than the officials judging, giving you favor. You have to put it all together. And this man did exactly that. Canelo was humbled so that he said, I didn't have any answers. Now, everyone knows Canelo is a prideful man. He is prideful than almost 80% of the fighters out there in the sport. For him to say that he couldn't do nothing with Terrence Crawford is the highest compliment that Crawford will probably ever receive in his life as far as boxing is concerned. Because a prideful man like Canelo doesn't have to say anything, but he articulated it. It came out of his mouth. Even though his supporters would try to say, well, that what he meant was, no, he meant what he said. He said he's better than Mayweather. Some people might have think that was Canelo taking a stab at Mayweather. It was not. It was Canelo that has the experience that faced Crawford, didn't have the experience when he faced Floyd. And he still couldn't get the job done. Still. Sometimes you just have to accept the truth. Yeah. So when this young man announced his retirement, WBC be damned. I reveled in his fortuitousness with just to stand on the merit and be like, you know what? I am done. The race was won. Now look at that picture. Look at that pound for pound king sitting on that throne. Does it come across a little different to you now? Just a little bit. In the ring, you can put it on the line. You can show the world everything that is inside of you. Everything that's inside of you, you can show the world. And all of your accomplishments, accolades, it can never be taken away. Never. Wow. Anyone in the chat want to come up and say something? I guess not, huh? That's cool too. Because all that does is it shows me the lack of sincerity, but that's okay. It's just fine. I've done my part. So with that being said, I'm going to get ready to head on out of here. I want to say shout out to the mighty LDBC. I can see there are certain individuals that didn't come around and show any support, but that's okay too. Because remember, every brother ain't a brother. You understand? Have a good night.